Hi, boys and girls. It's me again, Miss Christy. Today we're going to be talking about something that we can't even see with our own eyes. I know, this is called visual arts. So why are we going to be talking about something that we can't even see? Well, it's all around us, and it's called microscopic organisms or microscopic cells. Anything that is so small that you can't see it is called microscopic. Well, why is it called microscopic? Because we have a special tool in science called a microscope. Have you ever looked through a microscope? It's a special instrument or tool that you can see in this picture is something that you look into. You look into those two little places where you can see something magnified 1,000 times. What does that mean? Well, that means there's a special lens, just like the lenses for glasses. There's a very special lens that can see something that we can't see with our eyes, something microscopic. Now, we are made up of millions of little cells. Have you ever heard that word before? Cells? Can you say that? Cells. Well, cells are what our body is made up of. We have red blood cells and white blood cells. We have T cells, and our bodies are able to do what they do because of those cells. Like our immune system. If we're sick, then our immune system, which is part of our immune system, our T cells, attack that virus or attack that bacteria that's making us sick. We also take medicine or vaccines to make us better. Well, how do those work? Well, we get a shot and it goes into our bloodstream. And in our blood, if you were to look at blood under a microscope, this is what it would look like. Weird, huh? Well, plants are exactly the same way. We also have microorganisms on Earth, and microorganisms are one-celled organisms. Can you believe it? There are actually living things all around us that are only one cell. Now, sometimes they can make us sick, like an amoeba. If our water isn't clean, we might have an amoeba like this one that will make us really sick. But we drink clean water out of the tap, and we use either chemicals or special filters to get all that out of our water. So today I'm going to share with you some artists that actually look into a microscope to either make their art or be inspired to make art. I've talked to you in each lesson about trying to look at the world around you and make art based on what you see. Well, what about based on what you can't see every day? So these artists use a microscope. So the only thing you'll need for your art project today is a piece of white construction paper and your crayons. You can start with a pencil. Teachers, if you want to do this lesson in pencil and then come back and color it later, that's totally fine. But students can just use crayons and make all of these shapes that we're going to be making today. So I have my piece of paper. I'm going to put it up here on the wall. So I have mine landscape. You can put yours portrait if you want to. So this could be a portrait of microscopic organisms. It doesn't really matter. Today, I'm going to let you make all the choices. In fact, you're not even going to really see much of me because I'm going to be showing you these images up close so that you can try to draw them. This is a little bit of a pop quiz. So usually in our art lessons, I'm telling you, watch me first and then you try. But this time, I'm not going to show you. You decide what your picture looks like. Now, don't get worried. It's going to be awesome because every single one of your art projects is going to be very, very different. If I was telling you, put a circle here and put a square there, then all of your papers would look very similar. This way, all of your artwork is going to be unique. So, where do we start? You can choose whatever colors you want in this picture. I do want you to try to use those contrast colors we talked about in the last lesson about volcanoes. We talked about how light colors next to dark colors make both of those colors look really amazing. They make the bright ones look bright and the dark ones look deeper. So do that. If you draw something in green, draw something in red next to it. If you draw something in blue, draw something orange near it. If you draw purple, then draw a yellow next to it. All of those colors are complementary colors. They complement each other. They make each other look even better than if they were by themselves. I'm first going to show you some different images of plant cells. Plant cells operate in much the same way that our cells do, like our blood cells. They carry nutrients from the ground and from the leaves throughout the plant. The plant has chlorophyll, and in that chlorophyll, there's something that's called photosynthesis that happens. That's where the plant is using the sun to create food. So, how does it get the food all around the plant? Well, it uses those cells. And you can see in all these pictures that the plant cells have different shapes, but they all function the same way. In leaves, they might have a vein, just like we have veins. They might have a vein where all those cells travel and carry the water and nutrients around. In other cells, they're like long tubes, like in celery. Some of these pictures are cross sections. In other words, they cut a little piece of a celery stalk or a flower stalk and they put it under a microscope. This picture is of a rose petal. Does it look like a rose petal to you? No. Well, it looks bumpy. What do we say when something looks a certain way? Like if it looks bumpy or rough or smooth or glassy. We call that texture. Do you remember that word, texture? Go ahead and say that again. Texture. Good. So texture is one of the things that we're going to be trying to do today. And sometimes when you create a pattern, it shows a texture. So most of these pictures you see definitely have a pattern and texture. Do you see any that you really like? Try to keep that in your mind. Take a mental picture. Take a little mental picture and try to remember what that looks like. I'm going to keep showing you these pictures so that you can draw yours. So don't worry if the pictures will come back around. An artist named Rosmarie O'Leary, she uses microscopic images to create paintings. So what she does is she looks at these things under a microscope in her studio, and then she paints a picture based on what she can see in the microscope. And we're going to do a little bit of that today. We also have an artist named Klaus Kemp. And Klaus Kemp is one of the only artists that does what he does. He goes around to all these different places where there's water, and he takes a sample to his studio, and he finds these very special one-celled organisms called diatoms. This artist takes those and puts them under a microscope and arranges these beautiful pictures. They almost look like kaleidoscopes or snowflakes. Some of them even look like the sun. And he arranges each one of these microscopic organisms under a microscope. So his artwork is only 2 inches, maybe 3 inches wide, sometimes even smaller. So we're going to do that. We're going to draw some shapes that look like these microscopic animals or cells. What I'm going to do with you now is I'm going to choose a few of them so that we could just talk about those shapes. Everyone knows what the basic geometric shapes are, right? A circle, a square, a triangle, a rectangle, a rhombus. That's what a lot of these are shaped like. I'm going to start with my favorite color. How about you start with your favorite color? It doesn't really matter which one it is. We're going to get started. Let's start by drawing a circle. Everybody knows how to draw a circle, and it does not have to be perfect. I want you to fill your paper with shapes. Can you do that? You can just fill the entire page. So I'm going to do this one sort of like Klaus Kemp did. And you can see most of his arrangements were circles. But in every one of those circles, he used lots of different shapes. So I'm going to start with indigo, and I am going to draw a little circle in the middle. And then I'm going to have some things that come out. I'm going to crisscross. Just like if it were a snowflake. But then I'm going to take a different color, like red, and come off the end with a little leaf shape, because some of those diatoms have this kind of shape. And it's okay if it goes off the page. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be your artwork. I'm going to color those in. But I'm going to use a pattern of little lines. So you don't always have to color it in completely. You can just use some little marks to color it in. Orange things here. That's a big shape, kind of like a oval, but it has pointed ends. So I'm creating a pattern. I started with that indigo, and I'm just going around and filling in. Some of these diatoms have a line down the middle. I'll do that. So now I have a primary blue, and I'm going to come back in and do, let's see, how about I do maybe some more of those little diamonds, or what's that shape called? That's a diamond shape. Starts with an R. A rhombus. Very good. So I'm going to add pink to it. So I'm going to put in the little lines that go across. And I'll do each one like that because it's a what? A pattern. Usually I tell you what to draw, but in this project, I want you to make the decisions. I want you to make the choices. There's no right or wrong way to do this. If you feel like you messed up, turn that little mistake into something that you like. Yeah, I like that much better. So this is the kind of project that you could work on it for a really long time. Like I could fill in each one of these little shapes in here that kind of look like squares or rectangles. I could add on to the blue part. I could add something to it, like making it a little darker, maybe using a different blue over the top of it. Or you can just do it really quickly and come back to it later and color some more in. These microorganisms there's an endless combination of shapes and colors. You can see in Rosmarie O'Leary's studio, she has her microscope next to a sketchbook. Can you see that? And on her sketchbook, you could see that that's probably what it looks like if she were to look into that microscope. Here are some paintings that she has hanging in a gallery. Have you ever been to an art museum or a gallery before? You can see that I filled in each of those little spaces with circles. And it created a what is it called when something looks like it feels a certain way? Texture. So it has a certain texture to it. What could I do to make that even more interesting? Well, I could add a different color to it that I haven't put before. Maybe a cool color in these warm colors, or a warm color on the cool blue. Let's see, I think what I'm going to do is in each one of these little circles, I'm going to put a little bit of sea green and see what that would do. So green is a cool color, and orange is a warm color. So I'm going to fill this in. You go ahead and keep working. Keep making shapes and filling them in with color. So you can see I filled in sea green in each one of those little orange circles. I could also come back and fill in around the circle. I can put in different things around the edges. So you can arrange these shapes however you want, and you can use color combinations that are just for you. I want you to try and fill the page just as much as I did here. And so I'm going to show you one more idea. You can do just greens. My son's favorite color is green, and most plants are green. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a series of wavy lines. Remember our wavy line? And then I'm just going to put some simple shapes inside of there. So I'm going to do some circles in the curve of the wavy line. See that? So I'm considering these to be my plant cells. On the inside of the plant cell. So remember, this pattern is your pattern. Use wavy lines or zigzag lines. Just try to cover the page in your whole pattern. If you decide to make a circle pattern like I did before, then you just start in the center and work your way outward. So oftentimes with these organisms, you can see that they have little speckles on them, or they have a line around a whole bunch of dots on the inside. Some of them are oval shapes. Some of them are oval shapes that look like they're on a stem. Some of the organisms look like they're a bubble or a sphere. Some of them might actually look like a worm or my mushroom. So what kind of shapes are your favorite shapes? So how many shapes do you have so far? How many shapes do you have? So the quiz comes in with how many shapes can you use? Can you use lines in some of this? Sure you can. I'm going to color that in. So this exercise is really just a way to get to know shapes and patterns. There's really no right or wrong way to do this. I want to thank you for joining me today for this lesson. I had a lot of fun talking about microscopic organisms and all those little tiny things that we can't see. So now it might make a little more sense why we have to wash our hands after we eat or before we eat, and when we go to the bathroom we wash all those germs away. We can't see them, but they're there, and we wash them away with soap. All those little soap bubbles grab onto the germs, and when you rinse them away, they go down the drain and be safe from spreading germs. There's a whole world out there for you to be inspired by. So remember, try and make art every day. And I can't wait to see you next time.